I said something on Facebook. You have to excuse the nasal thing again. I generally tend to get on here after a good cry. Something on Facebook about, I don't even know what it was. So not, being saved. Of course, immediately there's a question was, what are you religious now? And it's like, I don't know that there was any sarcasm there, and just kind of assumed there was, because I don't know what it is. And why do people have such an aversion to a concept or an idea of a better way, better path. The Bible says that the road to destruction, wide and well traveled, narrow is the path, and even narrow the gate, those that enter the kingdom. So I guess it stands to reason that, excuse me, jeez, those people that do go to God understand that it's a little bit more than just, sitting in a pew and hallelujah, praise Jesus, and your bank account number. It's a personal journey of, I don't really want to say self-discovery, because it's kind of like a self-realization that whatever it is that you believe is self has no value, so it's worthless. And I don't understand. We live in a time right now. We live in a time where it's perfectly all right for people to talk about runes and magic and Pokemon and this thing here. See that? You see that thing right there? Isn't it beautiful? So there's kind of a thing that I've been thinking about, and we thought it was like conspiracy theory or something. Well, apparently, pagan cults, things like that, witchcraft, animal sacrifices, things like that, kind of things that just move on for and stuff. So they call it witchcraft, Of course, that's another one of those things that people make fun of for some reason. You want to make fun of somebody that, goes by the crystal, and talks about this namaste bullshit. But, witchcraft and demons. And, I don't know people even go to a church, People sitting in church, it's like demons, or like, what do you mean possession? And then here's my money for the tithe. And I say to myself, I don't necessarily discourage people from doing good things or showing heroism or altruism or whatsoever, but you got to understand that, like, most people Just simply don't believe the way that you believe, or I believe, or they believe, or anybody. Nobody believes in shit. Anything has. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about me. And nobody gives a fuck about shit. But what they do give a fuck about is themselves. And giving a fuck about themselves means that they necessarily perceive, the world in a specific way as filtered through their, guided lens. So when somebody's trying to tell you, about their witchcraft and their demonic shit, well then, that's because they actually believe the shit. And they do it. And I happen to know science, and I'm not going to say that I did anything. I didn't go to Christ. I didn't give myself over to Christ. I did go to God, and I try to explain to people who talk to me about, and I'm going to get to the point. I try to explain to people who try to talk to me, I have this utmost confusion for most of my life. Because, God and all that stuff was just something that I kind of patently understood. I don't believe that there was ever a point in my life where that God didn't talk to me. And, it was like, having I don't want to say like a sibling, but, somebody that was like smarter than you and older than you and wiser and knew more always. And as a child, I had it. And, it was just there. There was no doubt. There was never any doubt in my mind about God. But my earthly father, John, he baptized me in skepticism, logic, things like that. Stuff that I believe personally is required to, really solidify the relationship that you have with things in general, information, determining whether somebody's bullshitting you or whatever. And the better you get at skepticism and the better you get at, understanding those types of things, well, the better, the people that are bullshitting you get. Until because when you know these things, like you're versed in them, like, little bullshit or whatever, but then you kind of like become this magnet for like big bullshit. And, the big bullshit is, it's complex on those levels because, it takes time and you have to lose money and, because you want to figure it out. But, the point is, I always had God. And, for a long time, I rebelled. I still rebel once in a while. But I rebelled. God would have me doing these unusual things or tell me that something needed to happen or I was called upon. And, sometimes I'd be like, yeah, okay. And then, like a child, sometimes I'd be like, man, fuck you, God, why not, but it's pointless to argue because you're going to do it. And then ultimately, I guess you come to start trying to learn something about, like, gratitude. You begin to kind of stop lamenting the fact that, God is kind of with you in a way, and start having gratitude for it, because I asked somebody today. I had a meeting with a good man, and I asked him, because he's a lot more versed in the Bible than I am, because I don't really, I look in the book sometimes, and some of the things I see in the book, they're true, but some of the things that I see in the book, I personally believe are open to interpretation. I think some things are literal, some things are not. It's up to us to decide. It's up to us to kind of figure it out. But I asked him, first of all, does God have faith in us? And he said, well, faith is something that you have to have, like, not knowing. And, he says, God knows, but you still have a choice and stuff. But, that kind of implies to me that, well, if God knows, but you still have a choice, well, then he wouldn't ask you if he knew that you were going to make a shitty choice. And I believe that God does believe in us, that God does take chances on us, that he, that what I know and understand about the creation story is that, well, it's not something we need to get too hung up on the details of a fucking day and what was created or whatever, because that shit's done. It's not the fucking point. The point is to illustrate that God tells you, we know what we know because that's what was given to us, and that's what we have to work with. I mean, if you're gonna operate on faith and belief and choice and all this free will, stuff or whatever, then I mean, there's got to be a lot of that shit left out because he's not gonna say, oh yeah, well here's all of it right there, and then all of a sudden, well, guess what? You don't have a choice anymore. There's no point in faith because hey, you get it. So we got to do a lot of things that kind of necessarily hide certain aspects of things is to help you kind of get it. And the story of the fallen man kind of represents to me that this idea that we're made in an image of a perfect thing, and perfection we have and things like that. And then as we choose through the eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then so we become aware that there's a disparity between the two, and then we are in a sense banished from that perfect state of being. And there's a line in the Bible that always puzzled me for a while. It says, God goes and he dresses angels, and everybody says, they ate from the tree of knowledge and good and evil, so they're gonna be banished from this garden state of perfection, unless they eat the tree of life and become immortal like us. And I've known for a long time that we're not sinners. When we're born, we're perfect. Babies are perfect. They're beautiful. They know nothing. They're innocent. They're helpless. They rely on their mother and their father. And it's from the mother's breast, the breast of Eve, her apple, so to speak, the fruit, the juice of life, that the serpent, has tempted her to, so on and so forth, to produce a child need to feed. And then as we grow from the mother's milk, then we become aware of our surroundings and dealings with other people and interactions and stuff, and we learn about good and evil, and we understand it. And it's at that point we kind of take a departure from that perfect state of being, because just gradually, slowly, we lose our innocence and things like that. And unless, I thought, well, at first, I'm taking it literally. There's a guy in naked dude and a naked chick hanging around having a good time, and all of a sudden they mess up and God gets all pissed off and gives them the boot and all that. But then he says, like unless they eat the tree of life, become, immortal like us. And well, why didn't you just tell them about the tree of life to begin with and get it over? Well, my take on it is that they're babies, perfect, innocent. As we feed from the milk of our mother, Eve, we grow in their knowledge and their ways and their understandings of the knowledge of good and evil. And some have more knowledge of good, and some people have more knowledge of evil, but it all comes out in the wash. We grow, and what we find is that we are feasting from the tree of life. This is it, all around us, and we feast from it. And as we feast from the tree of life, so then shall we become immortal. That's kind of like our only chance. But, the struggle that I had was, in order for me to try to understand a little bit about how God worked, I came through like kind of the opposite route. I came up with skepticism, logic, things like that, and not really too much pressure to go one way or the other. Religion, just kind of figure it out on your own. And there's a couple things that are interesting with regard to that. I think that science should be used to enlighten mankind, kind of discover more about God's world. I think that people get too hung up on the details. I think we could spend all day arguing about, hell, we could spend thousands of fucking years arguing about what a fucking day is in the mind of God, and we don't know shit. Fuck a dinosaur, who gives a shit? I don't fucking care. And some people, the dinosaurs, they evolved into birds. Well, that's fucking great, because there's fucking birds, and what the fuck does it matter to me? And, the earth, did you know it's flying out around us? Well, I don't give a shit. I don't plan on going into outer space. I'll probably have to go to fucking work. And so now that we know whatever the fuck it is, then who gives a shit? Like, let's go. Same thing with history and things like that. George Washington, who gives a fuck about a fucking cherry tree or a wooden tooth, or Honest Abe? Fucking who cares? Who gives a shit? They're dead and they're done. And like, we're living now, and that's all there is. And the sooner people kind of wrap their brain around the fact that the past is literally our collective memory of it, and that's it. It doesn't exist. This is it. We're grinding forward through this tree as we eat, and so do we die. People don't believe in God because they say there's no evidence. Well, I got news for you. If you've ever read anything about solipsism, then you would know that, can't really prove that there's anything outside of your mind to begin with. And that all science and all knowledge and all learning and all things that you know come from the assumption, as science, they use assumption, they don't use faith, same thing, assumption, you assume, not knowing. It comes from the assumption that the world exists outside of your mind, that I am actually a real person, and that you are receiving this transmission, or what you cannot prove, even since the time of Socrates and stuff like this, you still haven't been able to prove anyway I saw system that says you don't even know if I'm just some figment of your imagination, that just whatever is part of you. And the problem is that, well, once that argument is made, somebody has to eventually come to the conclusion that, well, if I can't prove that the world exists outside of my mind, or I can't prove that any other human being exists, experience sentience, or has consciousness, or anything like that, well, then how do we go about approaching anything? Data, sure, everybody agrees, or they disagree, or however you make believe that it's whatever in your mind. But the thing is that consciousness is a thing that each and every one of us knows is real. Each and every one of us knows is very real. Because I know for 100% fact that I am viewing and perceiving as being of sentience, or whatever you want to call it, with whatever clever system of nomenclature, something is occurring, and I can see that it's happening, and I know that 100% within my mind. I know it. I know when I'm sad. I know when I'm happy. I know how I feel. I know who my friends are. I know who they're not. 100%. Absolutely 100%. Okay, so like the kind of the thing about the science thing is that, well, you lose a certain degree of accuracy whenever you're trying to predict things outside of your mind, because, well, first of all, you have to make an assumption that it's out there, and once you do that, you lose a percentage degree of accuracy. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Everything's uncertain. It's all uncertain. I'm 99.999% sure that there's a camera here and I'm speaking into it, but since I can't really prove that there's a world outside of my mind, I can't be 100% sure about that. And if I can't be 100% sure about anything, then I'm not going to fucking bet on it. But what I am 100% sure on is that there's something up in here, or whatever the chemical process, or whatever you want to look at it as a sentient center point of being. Is like something that's telling me that something is occurring. I have beliefs, of dreams, of joy, of sadness, pain, suffering, all that stuff that I know. And I can't prove it. I can't just take a memory from my childhood and hand it to a scientist and then have them evaluate it under a microscope and go, oh yeah, there's a memory, or a dream, or a joy, or a sadness, or anything. I can't prove any of that shit. And the fact is that us humans are walking around in some type of vessel that you can feel it and stuff like that, but the fundamental core of our observation is unprovable. And if something exists in this world or doesn't exist or whatever, well, then it's subject to certain laws and certain rules. This thing here, okay, it's held together. It has, certain qualities and so on and so forth, matter, mass, and what have you. But it doesn't have that quality that we have, that we carry with us to be able to think and observe and things like that. And I think that the world has to, in order for some objective thing to be, it has to carry objective qualities. It has to be substantive. It has to be qualitative. It has to be the quantum mechanics. There has to be quanta for the thing in the form of like molecules and particles and things like that. You'll say, yes, okay, that is objective. Subjectively speaking, we can provide none of that. There's no qualitative, substantive, or any type of quantum mechanical function of like consciousness or sentience, awareness, thoughts, memories, dreams, and things like that. There's no idea particle. And so what that tells me is that it's simply not something that the world recognizes as something that's being. And I think we find evidence in that, in the fact that, you know, a 18-wheeler accident will smoke your ass just as fast as it'll smoke a 2-year-old. Or just, it doesn't differentiate between anything being in here. And therefore, how can the world destroy it? How does the world even have an effect on something that's a part of you that you, for all intents and purposes, the only thing that you know for 100% sure is actually there and real? What's that? You know, prove that. And the atheist dilemma is that they want to be in control. They don't believe that they need God. They don't think that they need it. They resent God because, you know, babies get raped and, you know, bad things happen to people. But we're all the same. You know, I'm you. You're me. We're all the same. I'm just you filtered through this brain matter and the timestamp of you know, May, whatever year I was born in. You're me. You know, it's the same thing. And we're all on this kind of road to becoming, you know, one with the idea that, you know, we have to come through these physical meat suits because they kind of attach themselves to our soul in such a way that they hurt, and we experience pain and we experience suffering, so that we do get to that place, we can be a good citizen, you know. I don't want to hurt anybody. I try very hard to be a good person. I try to help people. I do these things. I don't know why God gives me these dreams and shows me these things. And I'm happy with like, you know, when I'm thinking about something or I'm going one way with a thought or something, and then just something just derails me, or like, you know, like a child smiling or something, you know, and you just take a second to smile, you know, because the way that I understand it is that, you know, once you begin on the path to love and understanding and wisdom and things, it's just going to get harder and harder. It's not going to get easier. And that's what I know. That's what I've experienced, because it was the path that it's a path in a way that I chose, but it's also the path in a way that was chosen for me since early as I can remember. And it doesn't get any easier. You get more kind of refined at picking up on the deceptions and the things and stuff like that as you train yourself on the path to get there. And I know when it's time for me to go and it's going to be that final test, you know, it's going to suck and it's going to be tough. But all I want is just to love unconditionally, without judgment, without requiring someone to confess or tell me the truth or anything else. Just want to be able to love and accept you and everybody else unconditionally. And I'm gonna try, you know. I've been told various ways and various visions by various demons and various people and various all kinds of shit that, you know, who the fuck do you think you are? You know how many people have come before you and all this shit and everything. And I just say, you know, what difference does it make, you know? Yeah, I'm gonna die. So why not try to shoot for something good? And what I know, unfortunately, is that we have to suffer for it. So every time you walk by like a homeless man or homeless woman that's laying on the street asleep on their side, not on their back, on their side, look and see what they have around them, and you'll see a cross, you'll see a Bible, and you ought to soon realize how much they've given up and how much they've suffered and how close they are to the gates of heaven and how much closer they are than you or I. Thanks, bye.